When talking about the best characters of all time, many of them can be put into different categories, but you will rarely find a rule of cool character in such a discussion. It's easy to see why. A character described like that doesn't really sound like there's much to them. And yeah, that is the case more often than not. Most people, myself included, prefer characters that you can make an hour-long video essay on. Still, I believe it is an archetype that has value and can be used in amazing ways. That being said, I believe Chainsaw Man's Quanxi is a perfect representation for a character like that. Before I can get into why she's so great, we need to establish what a rule of cool character is. There's one main factor that defines them. Almost everything they do and say is there to impress the viewer, reader, player, whatever. That is the number one priority. Besides that, they are almost always presented as the most impressive person on screen. There are a few exceptions where the character gets put down, but that's build up for an even more satisfying retaliation. That's it really. There is one misconception, I guess you could call it. Often it gets assumed that these characters have no depth, backstories and the like. While that is often the case, it doesn't have to be, as we will see in this video. With the rules established, let's get to Quanxi, the absolute queen. Like most shonen, Chainsaw Man is split into arcs, and with chapter 53 begins the International Assassins arc. After Denji's actions in the Bomb Girl incident, he got the eyes of the world on him, and with that come a lot of assassins that want his head. We get introduced to pretty much 3 factions, but one is disguised as being 2 separate ones. The 3 American brothers present themselves as the competent badasses. Tolka and his master show a somewhat normal side to being professional killers. Santa Claus is the fucked up one. And then you get this. No matter how you personally feel about it, nobody can argue that this left the most powerful impression and presented Quanxi as a dominant figure, but also somewhat sympathetic, seeing what she wants as a reward for a life-threatening mission. Now we switch back to Denji, who got a horde of bodyguards around him who all scream, "Yes, we're gonna die this arc, no need to care about us." With the exception of this sexy motherfucker. After some amazing scenes, we get to Quanxi and we get to see her full design. You know, not being naked. This is like the textbook definition of a badass lady. The eye patch with the ponytail, smoking and having her harem with her, emotionless expression. I also really like that she's wearing casual clothes. Characters having different outfits is something I really learned to appreciate thanks to Kill War. Her character is conveyed on first glance, fantastic. Let me go on a little tangent here. What makes her even more badass in my head is the voice I imagine for her. I swear, if she isn't voiced by Rumi Park in the anime, I will fucking baby rage off this planet. Now back on topic. We get to see them spending time together, eating lunch and talking about regular stuff, which humanizes Quanxi, and that's awesome, because it isn't the norm for rule of cool characters. Shortly after, Santa Claus starts attacking and transforms civilians into puppets that attack Denji and crew. Quanxi got into battle attire and massacred a lot of people in a second, which led her to Denji. Meanwhile, her fiends stayed behind and get confronted by Kishibe, who captures 2 of them while the other 2 escaped. Quanxi has no problem destroying all the bodyguards. Pretty Boy is the only one who put up any sort of resistance, but before she could finish him, Kishibe appears with Flong and Quanxi as hostages. Quanxi is pretty smart, so she realizes that Minzi has something to talk about and takes a seat for a conversation. They start small talking, but Kishibe's plan is to get Quanxi's help in taking down Makima, who has been foreshadowed to be extremely dangerous and not exactly a good person. Quanxi knows what Makima is capable of and tells Kishibe to keep his collar on before yeeting him out of the window. As a side note, there's actually a little side story from their time working together where Kishibe tried to hit on her, but as they already saw, she's not into guys. She aims for Denji, but Yoshida stands before her asking for a rematch. He's so cool. I'm gonna mention this here because I don't know where else, but I really hope Yoshida comes back in part 2. He's one of the few survivors from the story, and from the little we've seen of him, he's awesome. And he actually does pretty well against her. On top of that, he confirms to us that Quanxi isn't human. But in the end, he can't keep up with her and she throws him out as well. Okay, now the coolest thing ever happens with the trip to Hell, but that doesn't really have much to do with Quanxi, so let's speedrun that. Everybody gets transported to Hell where the Darkness Devil appears and he annihilates everyone, including Quanxi. So Makima has to come to the rescue. She fights the Darkness Devil and manages to bring everybody back to Earth. The real Santa Claus got a fraction of the Darkness Devil's power and comes for Makima. Of course, Denji being her loyal dog protects her, but he can't really do any damage to Santa. Now we get the coolest transformation ever. Tsugihagi stands on a rooftop and holds Quanxi's head. She pulls out an arrow from her eye socket, drops the head into the group of puppets attacking Denji, and we get Quanxi's hybrid form, which looks fucking awesome. She teams up with Denji against Santa Claus, but Santa is a bit OP now thanks to that good stuff and controls Quanxi. Of course, Quanxi can't harm her. Denji helps out by proving why he is the best shonen protagonist ever. But while flexing, Quanxi decapitates him and orders Cosmo to finish off Santa with this crazy stuff. Being in charge of powerful people is a way to hype up a character as well. If this arc confirmed one thing to us, it's that Makima is insanely strong, and so Quanxi surrenders instantly with the hope of her fiend surviving. Makima isn't known for having mercy, and that's that, unfortunately. Quanxi does appear in the final arc again, but controlled by Makima, so not worth talking about. Quanxi only appeared in one 17-chapter long arc and left a pretty strong impression as a competent badass who isn't a heartless killing machine. She was characterized really well in a short amount of time. Her design, personality and abilities work fantastically for the type of character she is, which is the norm for Chainsaw Man. The highlight of this manga are the characters, and Quanxi is proof of that. There is one problem I have with her, but that's more about her role in the story than her character. Even though she's obviously supposed to be a super badass, she got destroyed 2 times in the little amount of screen time she got. Rule of cool characters are rarely the strongest characters of the stories they're from, which leads to them being built up for even stronger people, which is exactly what happens here. I think it would have made sense if she was able to challenge Makima somewhat at least, considering that she's the first Devil Hunter. The reason that wasn't done was of course so that the readers wouldn't get more information on Makima's abilities. That's for the final arc. I'm not saying Quanxi is the best thing in Chainsaw Man, but all the other girls are getting plenty of love and attention from the community, so I thought I'd give her some spotlight. So what to take away from this video? Quanxi is awesome, and if she won't be voiced by Rumi Park, the anime will be a 0 out of 10.